No one sets out to destroy their marriage shortly after the wedding. Though it was never my intention, it ultimately became my action. My story started at the age of 14. I was at a friend's house, and he pulled a magazine out from under his bed. That was the first time I'd ever seen a picture of a naked woman. The curiosity that followed just became more and more of a bad habit. In high school, I had a girlfriend, and I kept wanting to take that next physical step. Once I did, it just left me wanting more. I knew it wasn't right, but just knowing it wasn't enough. I really wish at that time I could have grasped and understood the destructive nature of what had really taken hold of me. A few years later, I met Katelyn. I remember how beautiful she really was. She had a huge heart for God and for others, and I knew that was something that I really wanted. 8 short months later, we were married. Things started out fine. I was juggling having a new wife, having a new job, while finishing my college degree, and that ultimately showed to be a huge challenge for me. I tried to deal with the new life stresses by using avoidance and distraction, visual distraction. I deeply wanted to grow closer to Katelyn, but my sin was keeping me trapped. I truly wanted to be a good husband and treat my wife well, but I didn't.
A few months into our marriage, I started journaling about how angry and frustrated I was with Ben and how he made me feel. The avoidance of me and the constant hammering of my character was bringing me down in ways I never thought possible. We asked a couple at the church that we were attending to meet with us. It was really hard at home, and I felt like we had some big communication problems.
Meeting that couple was just hitting the surface of our problems. I didn't want to divulge everything that was going on inside me, so the help was limited. My selfish desires and pursuits continued to cause a large void in our marriage. This ultimately led me to cultivate a relationship outside of our marriage. This was the lowest emotional, physical, and spiritual point in my life.
On New Year's, we sat down to watch a movie, and when we were scrolling through to see what we could find, there had been some porn that had been watched. I had asked him about it, and he denied it. But once he saw the tears that were pooling into my eyes, we both knew right away that we needed to get some help.
I was exposed in a way that was painful and uncomfortable. I knew we needed help, but was holding on too tightly to what was going on inside. A couple months later, Katelyn and I were having our typical heated argument over I wasn't loving her the way she wanted to be loved. I wasn't communicating the way she wanted to be communicated to. Ultimately came to a point where I yelled at her and said, "You check your own heart and your own self first." At that point, I had to leave the house to cool off.
I knew in that moment that it was time to go. I took my 1-year-old daughter with me, and we flew home to my family.
When I came back, I found the house was empty. And at that point, I knew it was serious. I immediately felt how empty of a feeling I had without my family there. That Sunday, I decided to attend church. The pastor there just happened to be talking about brokenness, and I could relate. One thing I knew, that God was asking me to bring that brokenness and darkness into light. And it wasn't long until I had that chance.
It was Sunday, and I had to call him. I asked him one question, if there was anything else that he needed to tell me. And he said yes. At that moment, it crushed me. I had felt like that life had stopped, that I was in a daze. As much as that hurt, everything started to make sense. I just asked God, like, what's next?
As painful as that conversation was, it was through that pain that my life, our marriage, and my relationship with God truly began.
I moved in with some friends. They were attending Rockharbor at the time, and they asked if I could come. I felt like that was that moment that within each service, God was starting to rebuild my heart.
I started attending Rockharbor with Katelyn and made the decision to fully surrender my heart to Jesus. And I was baptized at Eagle Island. I didn't realize this at the time, but God had already put so many people in our lives to help us throughout this process. True friends and family who could love us and support us that made all the difference. I began to carry out the great intentions that I'd once had for myself and my family. Through the grace of God, Katelyn found forgiveness in her heart for me.
After some time of healing, I was able to meet with one of the gals that Ben had an affair with. I was able to look at her in the eyes and say, "I forgive you." I couldn't believe the sense of freedom that I had inside after that moment. Through the hurt and pain, I was able to truly understand what the grace and forgiveness of Jesus means to me.
Katelyn and I have been married now for 7 years. Bearing my pride and placing my sin before God was what ultimately changed my life. I strive every day to be a better follower of Jesus, a better husband for my wife, and a better father for my kids. Don't get me wrong, I still make mistakes. But looking back on where I was, where we were, and where we've come now, this is a redemption story that was only possible because of God's love and His pursuit of us.